life and confidence coach Dianna Leeder, and this is my podcast, the Crave More Life Roadshow. It's here we talk about emotional hits and lovingly kicking our own asses to get through them. Just so you know, it always comes down to being your beautiful, sassy self, living and loving from you, no matter what. So join me to hear about the healing journeys of other women, and you just might become a DIY ass kicker too. Hey DIY ass kickers, welcome to the Roadshow. My guest today is LYNDI PICARD. LYNDI is a contributing author in the last edition of my book series, Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 3 Powerful Healers' Spiritual Stories. Her chapter is called Embodying Strength, Courage, and Love, Moving Forward by Freeing Yourself from Your Past. Born a healer and a medium, over the years, LYNDI's gifts have evolved into her soul's passion. Guiding people to find their authentic selves and their voices, LYNDI says that we all deserve to be heard. Have a listen and look for how to connect with LYNDI in our show notes. LYNDI asks one simple thing of you: be fucking amazing. Welcome to the Roadshow, LYNDI.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy you're here, and I love that. I love it, love it, love it. There's not much that makes me laugh as hard as just ridiculous language. Yeah, you gotta laugh. You gotta laugh. So first, I want to know okay, tell me a little bit about your chapter first. I was going to dive into that fucking amazing, but I'll save that for just a little bit. Just a little bit. So tell us a little bit about your chapter.
So my chapter was really, I want to say, was a piece that put a lid on my past, if that makes any sense, so that I could move forward completely. Because I've been on my healing journey for my whole life, over 40 years, technically, right? Like little bits and pieces. But this has really empowered me to say, screw it. This is in the past. I've gone through counseling. I've done my own work. I have, and helping people along the way has empowered me to have my own aha moments as I'm like helping them. When I'm doing readings, sometimes I'll get, are you listening to your own words right now? Right. So it's like, so I can go home and I can, or go meditate and work on things. And so doing this chapter, really, truly, I'm not afraid to say what's happened to me anymore. Right. And I have empowered other people to say, you know what, some of these things have happened to me in different situations and I shouldn't be afraid. And the most empowering thing that came out of this is my youngest son said to me, I can't write a story like this. And I was like, that's because I did my healing. Right. So that was like if anything is to come out of this book and me writing my story, that is it. Yeah. Wow. And just because I owned my stuff, I owned who I hurt, because of the people who chose to have actions against me, I had to forgive myself for the things I did because I didn't know how to deal with my emotions at the time. Right. So it wasn't an easy process. Like this whole healing journey, there's been so many ups and downs and, you know, roundabouts and all that, but it's been worth every second for where I am today. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I love to hear those stories, and I hear you when you're saying, yeah, you had done lots of work, but that actual point where we can acknowledge what our history is without it meaning anything about us, without it defining us anymore. And that's really, I think it's hard sometimes for people to get that actually happens.
Yep.
But it really does. It really does. Yeah. We don't always have to do the deep dive every time, because usually when we do that deep dive, we stay there. Right.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And it is scary, moving forward, because it's easier, like I say in my chapter, to stay in those lower energies because we're comfortable there. right?
Yeah.
We're comfortable not showing people, you know, or anybody expecting anything from us except our bad decisions that we've made.
Yes.
Or, you know, over and over again. It takes a lot more courage and strength to move forward than it does to stay in that lower energy, because it's easy. Then nobody expects anything of us, right?
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, that's true. And lower energies that's not where we want to be right now.
No, no,
No,
no,
no, no, for
no,
lots of
not at
reasons.
all.
But
Yeah,
you know, I mean, bottom line is that we want to feel good. You know, we
exactly.
deserve to feel good. Right?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And to have your son engage in that process is
Yep.
is amazing.
Yeah, and for him too, he's going to be 20 this year, and he was like, he only knew one part of my story because my oldest son is involved in it, right? In one of my traumas. And so he knew that part, but he didn't know any of the other stuff because, and he asked me, I didn't know this. I'm like, well, it was not, that there was no need for you to know this, right? Because it's mine to own.
Right.
But when I had it all out in my chapter and he read it, he was like, this stuff happened to you? And I'm like, yes. And I was talking to his girlfriend at the time, and she has some traumatic events in her life also, which she is recognizing. She's going to be 19 and she's going to counseling already, right? So she's recognizing that some of the traumas from her past, and she's doing so well for herself despite all of those things. She's going to nursing school and she's doing all of these things because she knows that there's something different besides her past, right? And so her and I were having this conversation, and she's like, I could write my story. And then that's when Cody said, I don't have a story to write. So it was a very powerful moment. It was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Good mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very, very cool. So tell us a little bit about the fucking amazing. So
okay, there's a huge story behind it.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. I was gonna ask a little one, but no, let's go big. I'll
condense it. So
it's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So I'm a firm believer in manifestation and putting things out there, right? And sometimes it's not always easy to be positive and all those kind of things. But so before, when my kids were little, you know how you can put your name in your phone as, you know, like Lindy's phone. But I had Mama Bear, right? I had Mama Bear in my phone. And then as my kids got older, and then I started focusing more on myself, and I started with affirmations. Like, I'm a huge believer in I ams and those kind of things. Like, I even started a line of like bath salts. Like, this one's I am beautiful. And it has the essential oils and bath salts to go with beautiful. I have safe, worthy, imperfectly perfect. So it's something that I've absolutely embraced, right? And so positive affirmation.
Can I interrupt for a second? Are you selling those?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay. So everybody, if you want to check them out, then go to Lindy's website.
I have stuff on the website. Yeah, on the website and on Facebook. Yeah.
Excellent. Good. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
That's okay. No worries. So it's just been one of those things that I truly believe in, putting things out there, having positive affirmations, even if sometimes you don't believe them, you know? And so while I was on my journey, I was like, okay, I'm still a mama bear because that's never going to end, right? I'm always going to be a parent and I'll always defend my kids. But I was like, hey, now I'm focusing on me. So I was like, no, this is what this is I put it Be Fucking Amazing. That's what my phone's name is. So when I get into my car, I can see connected to Be Fucking Amazing. You know, whenever I open it, it's like, or my Bose speaker goes connected to Be Fucking Amazing. It's just a constant reminder to be amazing. So, but that was my own thing, right? And then, so this became a thing when I started this book because, and Mercury's in retrograde right now. So it's the total reason why this is happening again. Okay. So the first time I do believe it was with you. And we had a Zoom meeting about the book, and I'm trying to get my computer going before the book was even published. And of course it's not working. So I had to use my cell phone and not even thinking, right? And everybody's like, who's Be Fucking Amazing? I'm like, oh no, what's everybody gonna think, right? And it went over okay. And then the second time happened with Laura when we were doing like her Zoom meeting to promote the book.
Laura,
again,
publisher,
the publisher. the computer would not work again. So I'm scrambling just like I was today to get my cell phone set up and everything that needed to happen. And not even thinking again that that's what's going to come up and not Lindy. And everybody's like, oh my God, that is so awesome. And who is that? And then Laura goes, well, it has to be Lindy. And so I was like, yeah, guys, it's me. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my goodness. So on this, as we're talking, and I'm not as embarrassed or, you know, like, oh my God, there's all these other people looking at this. I've been told to do sort of like a club per se about, you know, monthly readings or sending out crystals and having these things, but needed a name for it. So they're like, well, use Be Fucking Amazing. Right. And I said,
that was your guide? You were guided?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then all the girls that were also on this meeting with Laura said, I want a t-shirt made like that.
Did you make them yet?
I have a couple t-shirts. I have it on my, I have where I have like all my herbs and medicines. I have it on the window. It says Be Fucking Amazing. It actually says right on here, Be Fucking Amazing. Yeah.
I love it. I love
it. But it was funny though, because my dad says, I told him about the idea about the t-shirts and he goes, well, what if it offends somebody? And I'm like, what if it does?
They won't read it. They won't buy a shirt.
No, and I found somebody who was offended because in my book, I've been signing each one. This one just has my name in it, but until I find out who's getting it. And I wrote Be Fucking Amazing in it. And this lady was just looking at it. She goes, oh my God, you used the F word. And afterwards, I had a chance to talk to her. I'm like, why were you offended by that? And she said, because it's the F word. And I said, and then I told her the story behind it about empowering myself and doing all those kind of things. And she goes, oh, that makes sense, right? People assume things too, right? They're like, why are they doing that? But they don't ask any questions. They're just like, oh my God. And she didn't even want to talk to me when she read that. But then she sat and talked for me for 2 hours afterwards, right?
Wow. Mm-hmm.
Because it's just asking questions instead of assuming things. Like there's so many good things that have come out of not only the book, but me having to use my phone instead of the computer because it's not working. And like, it's been a fucking amazing experience. Let's just put it that way.
And so there are no coincidences.
No,
this
not
stuff
at
didn't
all.
just sort of happen. It happened
Right.
for a reason, like you need to own that too, and we need to absorb that. For me, I mean, language is just it's just something. It can be very frivolous and silly, and I'm called to use it for basically because women can be afraid to do that, like that woman.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So I figure if I'm myself, then I give other women permission to be themselves as well. Whatever
100%.
that looks like. If somebody doesn't like to use it, then they won't use it, and that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my things too is helping people find their authentic selves, right? Before I would hide behind that I was a medium. Like I would feel things out and I'd be like, does this person are they spiritual? Or like, I wouldn't even do my cards in front of people because of what people would think or say. I honestly don't give a care anymore. This is who I am. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, that's not my problem. And I'm going to move forward regardless, right? Yes. Because I have done the work. I know who I am, what I need, and what I want. And it's a continuing process, mm-hmm. right? Because as we get older, things evolve and turn. And right at this point in my life, like there's so many good things happening that I've lost some friends because of lack of communication and those kind of things and assumptions. And the old me would have been really worried about it, and like trying to but I also have to know that everybody feels differently about the same thing sometimes, right? And you can't tell anybody else how to feel and you can't control anybody else. Yeah. So when it comes down to it, am I sad about it? Yeah, because we were good friends, right? There's 2 of them. But when it comes down, do I want them in my life? Yes. But if they don't want me in theirs, I can't control that, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So that's what I call kicking your own ass. Right?
100%.
You're taking responsibility for yourself, and what your boundaries are. What you are responsible for, what you're not responsible for, and you honor someone else's space too.
100%, right? Because I understand where they're coming from, but I can't control how they're dealing with it, right?
Yeah.
And all I can do is control how I react to it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's that little piece about understanding that we are, when we do respond in whatever way we choose,
Yeah.
whatever we're aligned to, how we're supposed to be responding, that it's done based on us as well. So,
Right.
I mean, how many times do you actually rip someone's face off because they've said something rude? Probably not real often, maybe
Right.
at one point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think as we grow and we become more comfortable with ourselves, then we can honestly say, well, you know what, I can understand where they came from, right? Like you said,
Yep.
I can understand
Yep.
that. I get that. I'm not judging that,
Nope.
right? That's their thing. This is mine.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
that.
And it's empowering. It really truly is empowering, because I'm not spending the time going over what happened or how things could change. Like, because that's such a waste of time, because it is out of your control, right? And there's so many other things you could be focusing on to help your own self, instead of leaving that energy and that power to other people, right? And that's what we're used to doing. We're worried about how other people are going to feel. And I'm not saying that you should go and tell somebody to fuck off and get out of your life. Like, I'm not saying that, because it's all in how you say things too, right? How people are going to take things. So when it comes down to it, communication can save a lot of problems. It can. The positive, because when assumptions are made, that's when everything gets misconstrued. And there's, when it comes down to everything, and I've learned this by doing, I wish I would have kept track and have been keeping track of how many readings I've done. I honestly couldn't even tell you. It's probably, I couldn't even tell you, right? Like, I don't have enough math.
How long, how long have you been practicing your mediumship publicly?
Publicly 20 years.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of readings.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it started out small, right? It's something that has gradually, it's come along the way it needs to, right? It's happened and progressed the way it needs to. But also I had a hand in that too, because if I wasn't working on myself, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I do know that there's more ahead of me, because there's opportunities that I'm starting in the next couple months, right? And the to even just, if they don't help, yes, I'm so excited.
We'll talk about that too.
Yeah. And I'm also taking my teacher yoga too. So there's all of these things that are coming up that I'm so excited about, because even if I don't teach one class, that going through that whole experiences is just going to help me more, right? And so I have a plan and I have goals, what I want to do with everything that I do and everything that I'm going to be doing. But first and foremost, I'm going to take what I need out of it so that I can help myself. In return, will help everybody else that comes my way. Right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
So it's yours to absorb, and then it's yours to share. Yeah.
Yes.
Love it. Which is kind of the way that the books flowed, that's
100%.
really the intention of the books, is exactly that. Yeah. So I love that. So I want to ask you about the mediumship stuff. So because it kind of runs along, excuse me, those same lines too. When we, and this is my take, so jump in and tell me if it's weird or not accurate. So my take is, and I do this with my own spiritual gifts, my knowing is, when I know something, when I understand something, when I get one of those messages, then I use it then as a piece of awareness.
Yes.
Right? It's not carved in stone.
No.
It's not, we still have sovereignty over ourselves, so we can decide what to do with that. So how, so tell me a little bit about your work and your clients and how that all kind of happens.
Yeah, you bet. So when I do have clients come to me, some have specific questions, and so I want to make sure, because they're taking the time with me. So I want to make sure that they're getting what they've asked for. But also, when people come for readings, it's not up to me what comes through. Right. And I usually make that very clear, that if this is something they want to know, it may or may not happen, because I don't have control over that. And then when messages do come through, especially if it's more of a I call them a bit of a warning, right? They're giving you this piece of information now so that it doesn't happen later, right? But I always put a caveat in there saying you have a choice, right? You have a choice to adhere, like keep this in, I always say, keep it in your back pocket so that when the time comes, you have a choice to use it or not, right? I never tell anybody this is what you have to do, but this is the guidance that's coming through, right? Especially when it comes to something to be careful about, watch out for, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, right? Whether it's an illness or an accident or anything like that. This woman the other day, she sent this gentleman to me and he was leaving. He goes, oh yeah. And I said, is there any other question? He goes, yeah, where's Tanya's wallet? I'm like, it's under a car seat somewhere. And it's been a couple weeks. She texted me yesterday. It was under my brother's driver's seat. Yeah. So it's just like some of those kind of, I couldn't tell which vehicle it was, but and I'm like, it was one of those toot times, right? Where it's like, yeah, that's where it was. But really, truly, when people want messages from the other side, it's, to me, some powerful things can come out of it too, that sometimes I can even take, you know, because when a lesson learned, because the spirit can see everything on the other side, right? And so when a lesson is learned and they're giving this advice or saying, okay, I see things differently, it also gives me that reflection of like, oh, like I sometimes take things out of readings too, right? Because I never thought about it that way. Or when I reach back and they come from like hundreds of years ago, that fuels my soul because I love that old energy because it's real, right? The world right now is so busy and they give such great insight for people to slow down, reconnect, and this is how we can do it, right? So there's so many things, but again, it's a choice people need to make. Just because it comes through doesn't mean you have to do it, right? But there's so many good things that come out of it. I always say, I'm not going to tell you how to do it, but you may be a fool not to.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Yeah.
But everything does come down to a choice, right? Everything is a choice.
Yes. You know, and I remember when we were meeting over your chapter in the book, and I remember giggling at this at the you know, in the moment that there was a piece and we were talking about, oh, maybe that should come out, and then suddenly you get that message, no, leave that piece in. And okay, all right, we're good. That stays. Yeah. It's you know, and we call them gifts. It is a gift. It's such a gift.
100%.
Yeah. To you and to
I'm
anybody
just the vessel. Yeah, I'm just the vessel that that I can connect to the other side. And the thing is, what I want to be able to do is give people the power to follow their intuition, because we also are getting messages that way also, right? Those voices we hear, or those knowings that we have, we're being guided. They help us keep us safe, right? They help us keep us on the right track. But sometimes we don't like the answer that we hear, right? And that's where it becomes a choice. What are we going to do with it, right? Like there's so many things that it is a gift because it's information that we don't know about on our own, if that makes any sense.
Right, we don't know about or we can't access, which was my next question was, you know, how do you support somebody to connect with their intuition?
So again, that's another choice, because you have to be still, right? You can't be super busy. You can't be on the go all the time, because you may feel it, but you might just let it pass by, right? To listen to intuition. Yeah, absolutely. Because you're too busy, or you're like, oh, it's not important, but it's happening for a reason, right? It's happening for an absolute reason. And in my chapter there, the night that everything went really bad with my son and his biological father, biological person, as he calls it, my friend wanted to come with me to go pick him up because he didn't trust my ex, right? Because he was doing really bad things. But my gut told me so badly that he had to not be there. I dropped him off at my house and I went. And if I didn't listen to it that night, he would be dead, right? So those things happen for a reason. And if we're not listening, absolutely we could be missing something amazing, right? Because our intuition helps us lead us to good things too, right? But our intuition, those messages are coming from the other side. Those pokes are coming from the other side to say, don't do this because there's something not right here, right? Like, so we may not know what could happen, because that day I had no idea what I was going to walk into, right? My intuition told me he cannot come here, like, no doubt. Like, I could not ignore that feeling, right? And there was my ex and a loaded shotgun and my son on the other side, right? So he would be dead if I didn't listen to that intuition. Right? So listening to your intuition, you have to be connected. And this world is so crazy busy. And this is, I want to say, COVID has helped a little bit to slow people down a little bit, right? In some directions, because we haven't been able to work or whatever. But truly, we need to connect to ourselves to be able to listen to that intuition, or to fully listen, feel it, and follow it, right? We can feel it and we might listen to what it's saying, but we may not follow it because we're too busy or feel like it's not important, right? But if we can go and not second guess ourselves, it can lead us to amazing things or steer us away from something that could harm us too, right? So connecting to ourselves is super important, and having that space just to be, right? Just to be ourselves.
And that kind of takes me to that whole conversation that, when you mentioned about teaching people to be their authentic selves, you know? Because I think that we are designed to take that quiet. We really are. We need it in our lives, not just for that, although that's a huge benefit, but just to calm ourselves and our nervous system and our bodies and our brains for a while, as opposed to spinning on a hamster wheel. We just stop and take a breath, or stop and take a nap, whatever it is, the honoring. I hesitate to call it self-care, because I think that the connotation is that you go and get a manicure or a pedicure, right?
Right.
And it's so much more than that. It's actually feeding this body, and again, not in a literal sense, but feeding this body everything that it needs. So it needs rest, it needs good food, it needs fresh air, it needs trees. I need trees. I mean, all those things. It needs, love connections, and needs to be with people who are at that same vibration as we are,
100%.
to help us stay up, and we help them stay up. And
well, and that's what I try to not what I try to, what I do is I give people information for them to be able to learn more things about themselves. But the thing is too, some of them are like, well, you need to tell me how to do this. Okay, I'm going to give you guidance to how to get there. But if I tell you everything to do, what's the point? Right? There is no easy button for trying to find your authentic self, or even try to higher your vibration, because it is absolutely a meaningful task you need to do, a mindful task that you need to do to take that moment. I was resistant at first, 110% resistant at first. I had a 20-minute ritual that I did at the end of the day. I'm on day, I can't remember 100%. I think it's 1,240 some days of writing in a gratitude journal. And so I did that and did a couple stretches and just did that. Like, it was just a moment I took for myself, between 10 and 20 minutes. After my accident that I had a couple years ago, my nervous system is so screwed up from it. And going to the chronic pain clinic and going to a movement specialist, she goes, I want you to do at least a half hour, 45 minutes. And I want you to include the meditation. And I've meditated before, and sometimes I would do that. But every night for the past, since I want to say July of last year, I do a meditation, whether it's 5 minutes or a half an hour. I put my legs up the wall. Like, I have a whole routine. And if there's some nights where I go, I'm too lazy or too tired to do this, I'll be laying in bed and I have to get my ass out and go do it, because my body now craves it. Right? my body now craves it. And that was a huge eye opener for me too, that what I'm doing is I'm nurturing my soul now too, right? Mm-hmm. My body needs that time and space to reconnect, to refuel, to do all those kind of things. And like, it's to a point where, like, even, you know, my kids, or even my, you know, 3-year-old nephew, he's like, oh, auntie's doing her stretches. Or, you know, when they have a sleepover, I have my little space in the back and they just know to leave me alone. I put my earbuds in, listen maybe to some Fleetwood Mac while I'm stretching, but as I'm doing my meditation and my legs up the wall, it's time for me to just, my body, I can just feel it just kind of just sinks down, and it's not doing anything but being, right? Mm-hmm. My mind's not going anywhere. My body's not going anywhere. It's set it, like my legs are up the wall and I can just focus on my breathing. If I'm listening to a guided meditation, I'm listening to what they're saying. And it's my body absolutely needs it, because I gave it a chance to know how it feels. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So that's been huge for me too. Yeah. Huge. Yeah.
And the stronger that we get physically and emotionally, the more likely we are to align with what we know about ourselves. We're not going to be as afraid, you know. There won't be the barriers there that perhaps have always been there. You know, I think that's 100%. All part of the healing process.
100% it is, right? And that's a thing that people need to understand too, is that it is a process, right? These things don't happen overnight. Like, you can have those aha moments, right? Those come, but for you to be able to move forward, and I call them leveling up almost, right? Is like, it is a process. I put out 10 years ago, started manifesting 10 years ago that I was an author in a book. It's right here. Right?
I love it. Yeah.
It's a process, right? Everything's a process, but this, like I said, being in the book has been able to put that lid on the past. Not saying that it's not going to creep up every once in a while, right? Because we're human and it's emotions. But like I say in the book too, it has no power over me anymore. Right. When those emotions come up, I can feel them for a moment and I can put them back there. We can't change our stories, but we can change how we handle the emotions that come with them, right? Mm-hmm. But that takes learning ourselves, forgiving ourselves, honoring what's happened to us, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, mm-hmm. and knowing what lessons we've learned. And if we have moved forward, we can congratulate ourselves for that. And if we're still stuck in that lower vibration, knowing that there is a way and there is hope to be able to change your story, right? So like, nobody needs to be stuck where they are, even if they feel like it, mm-hmm. because there's people that are willing to help you, but you also have to communicate that you need help, or that something needs to shift. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think connecting with the people that we want help from is really important. You know, if you're looking for a healer to work with you, then take your time, you know, get to mm-hmm. know who they are and what they do and how they do it, and make sure that feels absolutely right. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. And connection is everything too, right? Like there is connections, but people, because of traumas and those kind of things, they're afraid to make those connections, mm-hmm. because they're afraid of getting hurt again, or, you know, emotionally, physically, sexually, whatever it is. But when we can make connections and start to trust again, it changes everything. Right. Yeah. And especially when we can start to trust ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the most
important. We want to get. Yeah. Acceptance and trust. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Because we all have a past, right? We all have things that we think
100%
make us up. Yep. Oh, yep, that's part of me. Yep, I know that. You know, as opposed to, as you say, you know, put a lid on it. It's there. Yep. It's not going away, but it doesn't. You know, it doesn't have shackles on me anymore.
Nope, not at all. Yeah. And it's so empowering to feel that. And you know, I look back and I'm like, well, I wish, and even in the book, I'm like, you know, there's a few times like you do things over and over again and get the same results. And then you finally have that, okay, I got to change some things, right? Where like you kind of look back and go, well, if I would have done this differently, but if I would have done things differently, I wouldn't be who I am today, right? So there's no point doing the woulda, shoulda, couldas, even though it's part of it, right? But if we stay in the woulda, shoulda, couldas, we're never going to be able to find something different, right? So it's like one of those things that we need to just honor how we feel. And it's not that I don't care what anybody thinks about me by any means, right? Like if somebody doesn't like me, I don't take it personally anymore, right? Because there is some people's energy that don't match, right? And it doesn't mean that we're either one of us is a bad person. It's just that some people's energy doesn't match, and we have to honor that too, right? But then that causes friction between people because they don't understand energy either, right? Yeah. That's true. And so I help people understand, different personalities and different, I help, especially if it's different elements. And like, I dig deep into people of not just their labels, but who they are, right? Mm-hmm. Who they are spiritually, who they are like on a soul level, not just a mom or, a daughter and all those, a wife or whatever. Those are labels that have been put upon us. But who we are as a soul, those things get taken away from us because we are, when you become a mom, especially, right? It's harder because we're now looking after other kids, like people who depend on us. And so we do lose ourselves, but I've also been trying to guide young moms, not for that to 100% happen, right? To make sure that they're still honoring the time, even if it's 5 minutes in the bathtub, right? Mm-hmm. To say, okay, let's connect here. Or 5 more minutes in the shower, or someplace where they can still go, okay, this is still who I am, right? I have, people yelling at me outside the door, but I'm just going to block them out for a minute. They're safe. I know somebody else is out there, but so you don't lose yourself 100% when they're older and you're trying to scramble to go, okay, now who am I, right?
Who am I? Yeah, that's a really good point because I think you're absolutely right. When our kids are little, it's all about them, and we still, as women, we have the lion's share of responsibility for those kids.
100%. Yeah,
it's just the way it is. So
yeah.
To be able to stop and take that time is so valuable. I remember with my kids, it was as soon as I got in the bathtub, they were like, oh yeah, bath time with mom. And they would just, they'd be stripping down on their way up the stairs and jumping in,
Yeah.
So I usually got enough time that it was okay and that it was just fun. But
right.
Yeah, but I remember those times when you just, you just need a break, and giving it to ourselves on a regular basis.
Yes. And that's the key though, is a regular basis, right? I was talking to a woman last night. I'm like, when's the last time you did something nice for yourself? Like not a need, but you did something that you wanted to. And she told me, well, I bought some insoles for my shoes. I'm like, that does not count. That does not count. And then she goes, I went for a massage. And I was like, thought she was going to say like a few weeks ago, last year, right? And I'm like, okay, so I said, we're going to back this bus up. I'm like, let's just start with 5 minutes, 3 times a week. Yeah. Just sitting, being quiet. Let's just start there, right? Because she's, like there's so much going on in her life. Her birthday's tomorrow. She's in her 60s and she's trying to figure stuff out. I'm like, we just need to, just for a few minutes, right? And that's where we need to start, is just for a few minutes. That's where you start. Yeah. Because then it's going to turn into 45 minutes with your legs up the wall, listening to meditations. Yeah.
Yeah. What is the deal about the legs up the wall?
Okay. So it is a yoga pose. But it also has so many benefits because if you think about it, your legs are down straight all day long, right? You're walking, you're sitting. And when you put your legs up the wall, it just brings everything down into center. It helps your nervous system. It helps anxiety. It helps digestion. It just helps so many things. Plus, you're just being too, right? Like it's called a restorative pose. I do believe, don't quote me on that 100%, but it is, because you're not doing anything but sitting there.
Right.
Or laying there, or I don't know how you would put that. But like it's to a point where, and they just say 5 minutes is good. Start with 5 minutes of that. And even if you're not listening to a meditation, but your body is just going to be able to just sit and just be.
Yeah. Nice. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you said that, I could picture you doing that, and I could feel the comfort in that
Mm-hmm.
pose. I haven't tried it myself, but yeah,
Give
all
it a
right.
go.
I'll give
What can
it
you,
a
what
go.
won't hurt anything. Yeah.
I won't hurt a thing. No,
No.
no, no. I absolutely won't. Yeah. So, so a couple things I want to ask you now, and one is there anything else that you want listeners to know about you or the book?
Okay, no, fair enough. So for me, one of my soul's purposes is to help people heal, right? Where I live here in Saskatchewan,
That's
there's a
Canada.
lot of, yeah, sorry, yes, in Canada.
You'd be
There's
surprised
a
how many
lot,
people don't know that.
yeah, right? And some people might not. But there is there's a lot of trauma and a lot of healing that needs to happen, especially with the First Nations cultures and all that kind of like that trauma that's come down generational. And there has been a lot of changes. I shouldn't say enough changes, but some changes coming about the healing that needs to be done emotionally and spiritually and all those kind of on those levels, instead of and like make it safe for people to reach out, right? My soul's purpose is because when I'm doing readings, I can see on the other side people not working on themselves on this side. And when they go over to the other side, your personality doesn't change. Your life doesn't change, right? And when you go over to the other side and you can kind of see now why things happened the way they happened, you do start having regrets. I've seen so many energies on the other side having regrets because a lot of it is miscommunication. It's a lot of assumptions. It's a lot of hard feelings or people holding on to resentments, right?
Right.
Where if you could communicate on this side and either be good with the relationship the way it is or delve into it and try to, I don't like the word fix, but heal that relationship that maybe isn't right. I want people to have the courage and the strength to make sure that they are living their best life now, so they don't waste any more time, right? This is why I'm going into doing what we're doing starting in 2 weeks.
Yes. Okay, we should call that. Finish your thought, because then we'll call that. Yeah, we'll tell.
Okay. And why I do the work that I do, especially I go into a lot of grief counseling, how to deal with your emotions. This is what my soul's purpose is, because I know it's not an easy thing, but I want to give people the strength and encouragement to know that even when I go do readings, a lot of things comes in from the other side to give them the courage and strength because they can see what's coming forward to them. Doing the book and putting my story in the book was so empowering for me, because for so long it made me, I shouldn't say made me, my story silenced me. My story brought me to such low energies. This brought me out of that 110%, where before all my healing journey is about 90%, right? Again, doing the book made that using your voice has not only saved my life because it no longer controls me, but I know already it's saved a couple other people's just by reading the book. I have heard such great feedback from it, right? All of these kind of things. This is why we do this. So empowering, not only for ourselves, but for other people, because despite our past, it doesn't need to define who we are at all, because we are soul people and we were not meant to be left in those lower energies. And I want people to recognize and realize that. And it's not just being a medium that does that, but my own stories, my own experiences help with that too, right? So I can encourage people that there isn't just this, that there is 100% more. And we can get there if you do the work.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the key. That's the key, right?
It is the key. It is the key. And we need a whole other show to talk about that work. Like that work. Yeah. But yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I agree. And you know, those books are in place just for that reason. You know,
Yes.
yeah, heal and then, you know, share so someone else heals. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, it's not that we're better than anybody else, because we have the strength to tell our stories. But what we want everybody to know, and I am going to speak for everybody else that has done these books too, is to show that, look, there's 25 of us just in this one book who have accomplished these things, who have risen from the ashes and become something else for ourselves, for our souls to be something different, right? There's so many empowering people out there, so many strong people that the more that we can project and put out there and show people that they're going to know that they're not alone, where a lot of them feel like they are alone, right? Absolutely. The more we can get this out, the better.
Absolutely. So give it a read, listeners, because seriously, because there will be something that will resonate with you, and when you get that sense, then you know it's something that you need to see.
100%.
Right? Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Love it. Okay, so what we were kind of joking about is that so Crave More Life Coaching, which is my coaching company, we are starting a Find Your Voice Healer certification program. So yay, this is the first group that's going through it, and Lindy will be part of that. So yeah, so keep an eye, okay, guys, for, you know, watch Lindy and listen for announcements about that, because it's going to be awesome. We're going to spread this word even farther. We're raising the vibration of the planet. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
That's exactly what we're doing. So so keep an eye and follow the progress of that's going to be good. There'll be another group at another point, and it's going to be awesome. And I also wanted to say, just picking up on one of the last things that you talked about, is that, so, you know, these books are for women who are ready to actually have their stories published. Not everybody, as you said, not everybody is there. But there are opportunities in other programs that I run as well one is called Writing for the Heal of It. So it is for women who are not women, excuse me. It is for men or women who want to start to write their story, but they're not ready to have it published. They don't want to do that. So it's a way to express what you need to express when you need to express it. So it's a bit of an ongoing program where you kind of pop in, you do your thing with prompts and in a group, and then you're gone for a while, right? So anyway, there are options. If you're not, you don't want to be published, but you want to tell your story, there are options too. So you can connect with us later on about that.
And it's super empowering, regardless if it's published or not. It was a super empowering process to write that story, right? Like it was. And my first draft wasn't what's in there, but the first draft had to happen for the story to be where it is now. So Absolutely. It was super empowering to do it. It was just the icing on the cake for it. It was.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you for saying that. Okay, so one last question, and that is, can you tell us, and I ask everybody this, I get kind of weird looks sometimes, but whatever. Can you tell us one fun or funny thing about you that not very many people know?
Oh, goodness. Funny thing. What, you should have put this. Okay. When I get in trouble so I'm afraid of cats. Okay. I don't like peanut butter, and I hate root beer.
Okay.
People are like, oh my God, I can't be friends with you.
They are a little quirky.
Yes. Yeah. And I joke with my he's going to be 23 actually on the first day on February 2nd, he'll be 23. And the fact that he knows what peanut butter tastes like, I remind him all the time, because I can't stand the smell, the taste, nothing about it. And he still got peanut butter as a child. So I always joke with him, you're lucky you know what it tastes like before you became an adult. Yes.
Oh, that's funny. Well, you and I would not have survived in the same household, because I just devour it all the time. Not root beer, though. Not root beer.
I can't even stand it on somebody's breath. It's awful.
Oh, wow. That's funny, eh?
Yeah. So it is because people laugh at me all the time. They're like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, wow. Very cool. Well, at some point you'll have to talk to your guides about, you know, if there's anything ancestral that's coming through
It
about
must
peanuts
because it's definitely something that's been my whole life. My
yeah,
whole life. Yep.
yeah, funny. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, Lindy,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you.
No,
Thank you.
thank
Thank you.
you.
Oh, this is
I
so
appreciate
great.
it.
It's been a lot of fun, and
Yes.
I'm going to see you in a couple weeks anyway. But I really
Yes. I'm
appreciate it, and
excited.
I think that you know everything you said. I think people are going to want to hear and appreciate, and there will be some resonance there. Absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
and I just appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. And listeners, thank you so much for showing up today. And remember what I always say, and that is that just by showing up and listening, you're kicking your own ass. So thank you, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
If you like today's podcast, hit subscribe at the bottom on your way out, and come find me at cravemorelife.com for even more DIY ass kicking.